Hello and welcome back to week 3 of the Shattered Star Quilt Along. Today we are diving into actually piecing. Yay! This is all about half square triangles using the 8 at a time method. This makes great, quick, efficient work of making half square triangles if you're making a lot at the same time. This is a genius technique to have in your quilty toolbox. And it couldn't be easier to tackle, so I'm going to walk you through that today. So before we dive into the actual technique, I wanted to walk you through the notions and tools that you're going to need to tackle half square triangles. So first up, you're going to need your A and B pieces from your Shattered Star quilt pattern. I have everything all cut out in front of me. Then you're going to need a ruler, and you want your ruler to be longer than the horizontal, the diagonal on your squares. You'll see why in a minute. You're also going to need a marking tool. I use a friction pen. Now, the thing to know about these, they're genius if you're working on in an area that's not going to be visible in your quilt. But I do caution you, I have a full blog post actually on how these can bleach your fabric. I speak from experience. I'd used it to mark some quilting line guides for myself, and when I went to remove it, they were all bleached out. So you could literally see every single line that I had drawn. Yeah, so, and the other thing to note is if you live in a cold climate, even after you've removed them, they can kind of reappear in the cold. You will be able to still get rid of them again just by passing an iron over it, but it's just something to keep in mind. So if you want a different alternative, you can absolutely go in with a hair marker, plot your line, or you could also crease them. I just find the pen tool the easiest and quickest, so that's what I go for. You're also going to need some pins, optional, but I do find that it kind of helps keep everything together. And a self-healing cutting mat. You'll need your sewing machine, some thread, an iron, an ironing board, and then when it comes time to trimming them up, you'll need a rotating mat and either like a half square triangle ruler, or I'll show you guys just using a regular ruler in case you guys don't have a 4-in-1 half square triangle ruler. And that, I think, sums it up. Let's dive in. Okay, so we have our square, we have our ruler, and we have our marking tool. All we're going to do is mark a diagonal line from corner to corner. This will give us our guide for stitching once we bring it to the sewing machine. Now what I'm trying to do though is get my pen right into that corner, all the way right down into this corner. This will help set you up for nice straight lines and keep everything nice and square and on target. So do try very hard. Also, the other thing to note is, I'm just going to do another one for you guys so you can see it in action. One of the things that you want to keep in mind is if you have a very thick pen, so there's also these available in a marker format. If your line is very thick, that will also come into how wide you're stitching away from, so just keep that in mind. Another thing that you can do is if you're looking to really get this all lined up, you can line the bottom of your block on the 45-degree angle of your ruler. This will make sure that you're nice and square and getting that nice 45-degree line that way. But as long as you're just marking those lines corner to corner, you should be good. So from here, what we're going to do is take we're going to take one of our B squares, and we're going to place them right sides together. Now, there's no right or wrong on solids, so this would be the back of the fabric, this would be the right side. So I'm just going to place them right sides together, so good sides facing. And then here's where I say you can optionally put a pin in. I find it just helps kind of keep everything together and prevents things from shifting, but you certainly don't have to. Now that we have it pinned, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew 2 lines, 1/4 inch from each side of the drawn line. So 2 lines coming down this way and 2 lines coming down this way. Let's go do that. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine and all I'm going to do is stitch 1/4 inch on either side of those drawn lines. So all I'm going to do is drop my needle. I've placed my presser foot right along this drawn line, and I'm just going to stitch 1/4 inch. All right, that's one line done. What I like to do is go to the other line rather than coming down the same line again, just so that I get them nice and anchored. That's just a personal preference though. And I'm going to do that again 2 more times. And one more. Okay, now that we've got them stitched together, you can see my lines, you can see the lines on the back side. Now we just need to cut them apart. So when it comes time to cutting your half square, your 8 at a time half square triangles, what you want to do is you're going to be doing a total of 4 cuts. You're going to do 1 down the center, 1 down the other center, and then finally you're going to do 2 diagonal cuts. I always start with the central ones. And what I like to do is I like to find a line on my ruler with the center of that X that we've drawn. And then I just make sure, similar to in our cutting video, I'm making sure that I've got alignment all around the edge before I take that first central cut. Now without moving anything, and that's very important, you don't want anything to move. So if it shifts like that a little bit, I just kind of tuck it back in. Just so that they're as close together and original as possible. And then I again find that center X that we've drawn, and then make sure that the lines on my ruler all the way around the edge are nice and even. And then I take my next cut. And then without moving anything again, we're just going to come down those diagonal drawn lines and cut right on them. Do it that way and then come around and do it the other way. And again, you're just cutting directly on that drawn line, and then once you pull them out, you've got 8 half square triangles. So here you just need to take them to your ironing board and press them. You'll notice that the pattern has specific directions on which way to press them. This is if you want your seams to nest, then follow the directions, the pressing directions in the pattern. Otherwise, you can certainly press them open if you prefer to have less bulk in your quilt blocks. Either way, it's up to you, but the next step is definitely pressing before we move on to trimming them. So I'll show you how I press them, and we'll go from there. So when it comes to pressing your half square triangles, what I like to do is I tend to lay out a couple on my board, and then I always start with setting my seams. So to set your seams, all you want to do is take your hot iron and lay it on top of your stitches. You don't need to leave it there for very long. You just want to give it a nice shot of heat This will help the stitches sink in and kind of be one with your fabric. And it will mean there's less of a ridge to go over as well when you flip your fabric back. So here what I do is I like to finger press first, so I'm not pulling the fabric, I'm gently revealing it back, pulling it back, and then using my fingers to kind of get a nice little press, and then I place my hot iron on top and give it a minute to just sit there, get all steamy, and then I move on to the next one. So do that, hit it with some heat and steam, flip it back with my fingers, come back over, lay my hot iron on top, give it a second, and voila! There you have some very nicely pressed half square triangles. So again, it's just, I tend to do them in a series. I hit them with some heat, and then I come back, press them open with my fingers, hit them with the hot iron, leave them there for a minute, and then oftentimes I'm kind of already opening the next one while I'm giving that one its shot of steam. You know, you get into a rhythm as you work, so you know, do what feels right to you, but I find that I kind of get into an assembly system when I'm doing these. So there you go. Those are the nicely pressed flat half square triangles. And now all we need to do is square them up. So to square up your half square triangles, what I like to use, I use my Martelli roundabout rotating mat. I find this one, I've tried a couple on the market, and I find that this one is the most sturdy. It spins at the touch of a finger. The other one that I had, I used to have to lift it up and move it. It really didn't do what it claimed to do. This one definitely does. I'm very happy with it. So here I'm going to show you trimming half square triangles using the Creative Grids 4 at a time 4-in-1 triangle ruler. I have it, there's multiple ways you can use this one. I'm just going to show you one of the methods. So once you have your half square triangles pressed, what you want to do is come in, and using this ruler, what I do is I line up that center mark on the central seam of my half square triangle, making sure that I have enough surrounding to trim off, to trim it down to the size that I need. And then all I do is I come in and I take my cuts. Voila. And then I just spin, I bring my ruler back, I always start by lining up that central line along the central seam of my half square triangle, making sure that I now have this line nicely square and this line nicely square with the cuts that I made. And I'm going to take my final 2 cuts. And there you are, a perfectly square half square triangle. I'm going to show you using a regular ruler as well, just in case you don't have a specialty ruler, which I didn't have for the longest time. So what you want to do is it's always going to be starting with finding that central line. And what you want to do on a regular ruler is find the 45-degree angle. So I don't know if you can see the 45 there. This is my 45-degree angle on my ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that 45-degree line right on that central line of my half square triangle, and then I want to look around and make sure that I have enough fabric on the outside of the square size that I need to make sure that I'm trimming it down to the size that I want. So the first step is always to find that central 45-degree line, and then I'm going to cut the excess here. Now this method is a little bit longer because you have to do 4 cuts, moving your ruler 4 times, versus the other one is four cuts, but moving the ruler only twice. So that's the benefit of having this ruler in your quilty toolbox. So what I'm going to do is now so that was the line that I cut. So I'm just going to come back here again, line it up. Line my ruler, the 45-degree line, along that central line. This is the side that I originally cut from. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to line this line up and line this line up, and then take my cut. So now I've got 2 sides done. Now, if I come back here, I'm coming on my 45-degree line. I'm lining the line up here. I'm lining the line up here, and I'm also now lining the line up down on the bottom. So I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but I've got things lined up here, things lined up across on the 45, and then lined up again at the top. I'm going to take my 3rd cut, and then I want to spin, and I want to come back and square this one up. So this is my 4th and final cut. So again, it's lined up there, it's lined up here, it's lined up on the bottom, and it's lined up on the 45-degree angle. And there you are. You have a squared up half square triangle. I hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments box down below or send me an email. You guys know where to find me. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future tutorials. Have a good one.